I wanted to give I don't know, like a specific example I came across just reading randomly. I don't know how I got to Psalm 139. It was just on my app, I guess, or I accidentally clicked it or something earlier. Um, oh no, I should just read it all. I guess I'll just read some of it or all of that chapter. It's not that big. And then come to that spot where without rightly dividing will be in contradiction and error. The Messiah said, "You do err not knowing the scripture," he said to them, to the Pharisees. "Yahuwah, you have searched me and known me. You know my sitting down and and this is real important. You know my sitting down and rising up. You understand my thought afar off. You comprehend my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. For there is not a word on my tongue, but behold, Yahuwah, you know it altogether. You have hedged me behind and before and laid your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high, I cannot attain it. Where can I go from your spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence?" Actually, that's one right there. His presence to rightly divide. Uh, there's actually a few things in Psalm 139 here that, well, so where doesn't his word need rightly dividing? So when we read, "Where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you're there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you're there." Uh, this is speaking of him being ever present, and he can see the thoughts, and like the thought, every word on the tongue he sees, and then the example of being above, below, in the sea, on the sea. You can't escape him. He sees all things, and so then can't flee from his presence in this way. And yet sin separates people from him, like we read, just like that, from his presence, separated. His face is hidden from people. It's a veil when we're in sin and don't know him at all. But right away, if we don't have rightly dividing, and it wasn't even the example, I still need to get to it, I guess, but a little further down the chapter, where his presence is rightly divided from his presence, in one sense, in that he sees all things. No one can flee from his presence, and that he's everywhere, whether above or below and on the sea, and yet he's not seen. His presence is not with those that don't know him yet, but that's altogether different. And so the letters we read so often, just like this, will, and someone who understands and sees this, I mean, it's they see this and it's not difficult anymore once he shows something. But it is this is how it is, though, when we don't have truth given to us. It'll be something like this with just about everything, where the letters actually contradict on the surface, and that's rightly dividing. Well, the amazing thing that keeps coming from him is any given word that means something different than what I learned growing up in, church. I didn't know anything, but remembering, hearing, what people say and behind the pulpit, and all these things, being somewhat familiar over the years from, like, a little kid. It's all I knew. Go to church. Where the meaning is like, wow, this is altogether something different, this word. And then in the beginning, it's like super extra zealous. And I've said that before, I think, a lot, where in the beginning it's like so zealous that You don't realize what on earth we're doing. Don't realize the hatred of whatever is true that he's given you. Will confused on why people hate any given truth or something good that he's given, or his good news, the gospel of the kingdom, good news. And you find out there's a rejection and bitter, resistance towards things that you believe and see are amazing and good. And then, time goes by and we find out why, more and more understanding on why it's being done like that. Why are people receiving truth so negatively and attacking whatever is good and true? Find out more about what the heart's doing, and this is literally hidden from those that don't know him or see, not being taught by him yet, on why someone's doing something, the intention, or why. I guess the same thing there. The intention is what drives them, the reason why. So then all over his word, there's stumbling stones. We read about that a lot too. That actual word or phrase, there's a meaning to it, and it's stumbling over his word. And it's a spiritual stumbling and blinding. It's not literally falling over a block, walking down the street, but it is something like that, walking in the night, falling. And and it's just nothing but tripping and not seeing, and it's a little bit scary in the dark. If we're all honest, someone would be a little scared in the middle of the night in a forest, and there's beasts going around, and you might be attacked at any minute. I'm just saying that, just for try to bring something out, people, there would be some kind of maybe concern for your life, And so spiritually, it's like a constant anxiety and worry for your life, but like spiritually speaking, within someone's using the word soul spiritually and not just literally someone's life or soul, which is someone's life. But, we read many times his word, he's teaching. When that word used, it's like a spiritual understanding of soul, or like heart, the word heart, although what a soul is given to us really simply and plainly, a little bit of instruction so we're not confused, but yet the words are so simple so often. And the soul, or life, is the body and the breath of the spirit of the Father, or spirit and or breath, breathed into man, and he became a living soul. And so animals are also souls, and I think people wouldn't like to hear that over there. And you can even see some of this resistance. For that example, like in the King James, they went out of their way. So it seems to me, and what I can see, to translate with partiality a lot of times. Although when these kinds of things are found, it's not even breaking his word, because the spiritual understanding needs to be given. But there is no perfect translation literally like that. And it wasn't meant to be, even doesn't need to be. It has nothing to do with the creator not being perfect. False things are created in the mind and heart of people. And one false thing is, if every word isn't perfectly translated according to man's definition of perfect translation, which would just be like the perfect word for everything and perfect phrase and order, I guess, then the creator must not be real and true, because he's perfect and his word isn't. And yet his word is perfect, though. but seeing it like carnally. If it's not letter for letter perfect, then there must be no creator. Who hasn't heard of something like that? Maybe someone hasn't, but I've heard it. And these are sort of the things you come out of over time, because the more faith someone has, the more those things just fade away. I got, you know, like reading a lot or translations. There's nothing wrong with that's what it's going to be like always for in the beginning. But I'm just speaking of some of the heart never changing, never knowing him, always doing the same thing, never growing, never growing. So there's no way someone could condemn someone without being a hypocrite. So that's what we have to watch for then. Because when someone points the finger, since man is so corrupt, you could point at anyone and say, oh, sin, and it's true. Everyone's sinned and sinned a lot, their heart and their mind being darkened. But it's a log in someone's eye when it's a hypocritical judgment of condemnation. And I don't know that condemnation could be separated from hypocritical judgment. I don't think it can, because a judgment with hypocrisy is with like a condemning heart of like, I don't do that, I don't ever do that, and I'm already perfected concerning this. Better to say nothing with the heart than a hypocritical judgment. But what he's also shown me is just because that's true and very important, extremely important, it doesn't mean that whatever he's given us for truth can't be said. I don't know of any teaching that says you shall be perfect first, literally, before you can ever give what he's given for truth and just freely give. Does that even make sense? It makes sense to me. Saying it in words, it seems like it's lacking. But I say that because people will create this sort of, I don't know, straw man, if you will. And then, like we've heard the saying, and then you break it down because what you created to break down so it can be thrown down. That's doing evil with his word or any truth. Just never do that. Never try to find sin in someone hoping that they're going to sin and then we throw them down and condemn them because we hate truth. We can't be doing that. And that's what happens so often is scripture is used to throw down some other scripture that was brought up to someone that they just don't want to hear because it's contradicting something about them, their beliefs, their ways in the heart. So they'll look to scripture to throw it down instead of ask the creator for understanding and wait and believe that there is an understanding, that even though it's not seen or seems impossible, and then boom, he makes it possible in due time to see that there is a way to do what's right, but it seems contradicting on the surface so often and impossible to do, because it is impossible to do to hate someone with a perfect hatred and hate all who work iniquity while we don't murder them with our heart, which is loving enemies. Bless those that curse you. Doesn't this seem impossible? It is. It is impossible to do this with the heart without him giving us understanding. And then to do the actual works, to rightly divide and then do that, not just for rightly dividing, just to speak, but to actually start doing whatever is taught by the Creator and Messiah. So then there's stumbling stones like that all over his word, because of, well, all kinds of things, and no understanding and not rightly dividing. All these things come together. for being blind includes all these things, you know. It includes not able to rightly divide, and it's a certain meaning and teaching that he gives, divided from another understanding that we read and teaching. And then to do the two things without mixing them and without doing one evil and the other, you know, you do that right, but you do the other evil thing. Somehow doing both without contradicting and without doing evil, following both and rightly dividing between two things. And that's everywhere, and seeing more of it, but it's everywhere. About anything, any true, almost, it's just about everywhere. Maybe it's not. Maybe it doesn't even exist. It's in everything, literally. Wherever there's a teaching, there's something else that's right next to it that mankind's contradicting and mixing and not understanding. And separating between the good and the evil on the tree, dividing the two right there, or dividing between two different understandings in his word. You know, there's more than one understanding, I suppose you could say. Then it's not just rightly dividing good and evil, it's rightly dividing, you know, like we read his word, between two understandings that on the surface seem to contradict. And there's a lot of contradictions like that without seeing and without doing that. So then it's strange that they make the right claim, you know, his word, they say it doesn't contradict. But there's contradictions everywhere. How can't they see that? And the world sees contradictions. They don't have answers, you know, and it's all dead to them. And so they're not doing anything for them. You know, feeding someone contradictions is not helping them, not leading them to the Creator in hopes that they believe, you know, because Father won't bless, you know, continual lies and stealing and robbing people. And how he calls people and who he calls has nothing to do with me or anyone else. This has nothing to do with someone, you know, oh, well, he can't call anyone now because of what's going on. That's not true. It's just that what's going on anyways. They're not helping. They're not, you know, they're suppressing truth by teaching their own understanding. What does it say? The deceitfulness of their heart, and all the hearts are deceitful. That's why we're not supposed to lean on our own understanding at any time, because it's just going to be a deceitful understanding every time. If we lean on our own understanding, whatever truth is in his word, whatever teaching is, when it's broken, actually, we'll have a lying contradiction every single time, because he does not accept or bless lies. So then if something is a lie, it's also going to be contradicting and foolish at the end. That's what it has to be. So this would apply for anything, any truth. It's also foolish if it's a lie, because it's not true and because it would be contradicting everything else that's true. The lie would go against all of his truth. And then the reality, when the works are done on whatever this truth is also stupid too. I mean, and that's what being blind is not seeing all these things, not seeing the stupid or foolishness of sin. But, you know, if it was required that we were perfected in one day before we could talk like this, well, then there would be no one that's ever believed at any point, you know. So, but just learning what the carnal mind will do, it's always attacking. It's like just being ready for attacks constantly to explain something. And it's like the only reason well, not the only reason, but a big reason of why sort of talk the way we do like that and go back and forth and answer the carnal man's question on why he's doing what he's doing. Um, and the apostle, you could see it as an example here. He's very aware of that. If someone can remember the whole of, not remembering every literal word, that's not what I'm saying, but just the picture of whatever they read that we read. You could see I can see, and someone else should be able to see, or they will see, this struggle constantly of always in the mind knowing that anyone that hears truth is ready to attack it in carnal, sort of crafty, tricky ways. And then people will believe that because it sounds good to them, because they don't see what they need to see. Therefore, it actually sounds right and good in our mind. There's a reality to believing our own way is right, but the end of it is death. We literally believe something's right that's a lie and stupid and evil. That's what happens. There's a reality to it. It's what we're coming out of that thing that everyone was in. All his people were in Egypt. How many of his people were that he foreknew? And that's what he's teaching that, even if the word isn't said right there. It probably is in the first 5 books, but there's so many teachings without saying the words, and then we'll find the words too. But teaching that he foreknew, if someone can see his people before they even came out of Egypt, he already knew his people, but they didn't know him. They were in Egypt and they were lost in this world, doing the works of the world, the ways and beliefs, and building what the world builds and requires to build. And the wages suck. But spiritually speaking, the wages don't fill anyone up or give them life. To do the wages of this world and like carnal evil works, darkness, like Egypt, darkness comes upon Egypt. And so then Egypt, spiritually, any nation corrupt, it's darkness, spiritual darkness. And then the works are evil, and they make you work, and you have no rest and no wages, no good wages and peace and life. That's what this world does to. It's a slavery machine spiritually for everyone. And that's why we read a lot in all kinds of places in scripture about coming out of this prison, the captives being set free, which is coming out of sin into the liberty of the law of liberty, like we read, because that's what's blessed. But, man doesn't believe that. Apart from him, it's like slavery or bad news. Keeping his commandments, that's what's rewarded. That's life. And they're connected to the Creator because it's connected to who he is, his character and image. And then we have the image of the beast, which is all things inverted and backwards. All the Creator's truth somehow perfectly backwards, where the enemy doesn't create anything new. And so what people do through this is just, invert whatever is true spiritually in the heart and find out that's what the heart's doing, is the backwards thing. And it becomes more and more amazing. The more he shows us what evil is, the more disbelief on how backwards this world is, or just the works of people, the carnal works of man, is amazingly backwards. And the only way to start seeing the true backwards is seeing what's good and true. And before someone sees the Creator at all, they have no contrast. If someone truly does not see what good or the right way is for any given thing, they can only see darkness and have nothing to compare to. And so we read about this darkness quite a bit. It's all over his word. And it's in Psalm here too, which that's the one I had in mind that came to mind. Uh, where is it? If I say, surely the darkness shall fall on me, even the night shall be light about me. Indeed, the darkness shall not hide from you, but the night shines as the day. The darkness and the light are both alike to you. That's the one I had in mind. So then the darkness is no good. Darkness is blind, doing evil works. And here we read the darkness and light are both alike to you. And yet he divides light and day, separates, and one is evil, darkness representing evil, and light is his good. He's light. And there's no darkness in him. But here we read the darkness and the light are both alike to you. Indeed, the darkness shall not hide from you, but the night shines as the day. And the darkness and light are both alike to you. So right away and that's the only point, I guess, is just bringing out examples, whether simple or, well, all his truth ends up being simple. But, light and darkness, obviously the Creator has no darkness in him, and he separates it from day and night is separated, and one is blind doing evil works, and the other is works of the Father from above from him. And we read that they're both alike to him, and that the darkness shall not hide from you, but the night shines as the day. Darkness shall fall on me, even the night shall be light about me. So there's a different, understanding that I'm seeing here that, he's given to see. And it's a stumbling stone for someone that's not seeing spiritual things. Because right away it sounds like a contradiction, and that's the point of rightly dividing, because every time something's not rightly divided, it's going to sound and be a contradiction and look like it, sound like it, and yet there is no contradiction. But how do you teach someone that? How do you teach an unbeliever? And you just start talking about things that he's taught you over the years, and then we should expect them to just understand instantly. That doesn't seem right, does it? Because it's not right. That's not how you deal with anybody that doesn't believe, that doesn't even claim to believe. Putting on them what took years to get to what we understand, and expecting someone to understand it like what in one day. So wherever someone sees those works from people, watch out for them, because to actually see those works from the heart and expectation from someone, this is no good. What's going on? Do they just need a good chastising, or are they carnal? Are ye yet carnal? Like we read, he's asking them. He had hopes to see some growth. He comes back and he's not seeing, he's seeing a lot of corruption. Who has bewitched you? So there were many called, and it looks like pretty simply they started falling away pretty quickly until there were just a few left, and the wolves came and attacked the sheep and tore them. Well, like he said they would. And when he says that, it's not as if that's going to come someday and that's it. It's always true, it's always ever present. But it especially happened at the end there at near Jerusalem, carnal kingdom, where there was a falling away before destruction. But a lot of people appear to believe, though, and that much is true. And we can't deny the scripture and reality of this, that does happen. And and if it has someone has fear in them because of this truth, that is proper fear, that the Creator has gotten us this far and needs to keep going. But that would cause some kind of fear, because what about us? Are we ending up that? Are we that? And is that what it's going to be, us? So that's why we read about checking self. But those that are dying in the desert, are they going to check themselves? So it is for his people to care and check themselves. When they start doing these things, they have more confidence. He gives you more confidence that you're not, utterly lost without him. But that's the thing. Someone that's yet carnal, they're not going to do all these things and learn and grow and continue to learn and grow. That is the only path. The narrow way is only growing, getting bigger and bigger, taller and taller, like a tree, like we read. And the kingdom of heaven is something like a seed, where it gets in someone and it sprouts and it becomes alive, and there's joy for a while, like Messiah says, and then there's a falling away, a shrinking back. It would cause someone fear if they cared at all. But then there's a reassurance for those that are being reassured by the Creator himself, who are not of those that shrink back. But just because someone says that, many are going to have that kind of belief. We can't have that same kind of mind, where just because we say that, oh, it's true, and then off we go. No thought, no care, no nothing, not seeking the Creator. But yes, for us, for those that do care and they're concerned about that, then they're going to be afraid of shrinking back. They want to make sure that they're called and chosen. And the only way to do that is to keep going every day and never stop that. Making sure, to the best of whatever someone's been given, to make sure. And that's just more evidence, more proof for the person themselves, that the Creator gives personally, that they're his people, so that they're not utterly lost, saying, I don't know. They should have some kind of assurance or confidence. So darkness is evil, light is good. And here we read that both are alike, like one. What is that, mixing? They're both the same. Well, it sounds like it, we read that. So there's another example of needing to rightly divide his word of truth, and it's two spiritual understandings. And these always have a way to live. And he's just given me to use the word reality. There's a reality to every teaching and word to live for real. It's not just words. So they're alike to him in that and in Psalm 139 here, we're reading that nothing can be hid from him, and it's continuing by we read that both are alike in that nothing is hidden from him, not even darkness. He could see right through it. And that's how it's alike to him. This has nothing to do at all with him dividing light and darkness and them being set apart, separate, and not being alike, but separate. Two different things, good and evil, light and dark. And in this way, they're not alike at all. But in this scripture here, it's alike, because that's the very thing he has to give us to see what on earth the meaning is, and what's the meaning, and what is the purpose of how to live it. And so they're just, I guess, a couple of examples, where It's like we can prove all day long that scriptures contradict with letters, Yes, it does. So what are, everything that the church world does is backwards. I mean, they put it on people. They put this yoke on them. They're the ones that do that, of expectation to believe and know everything, and join and commanding and doing all these kinds of things with wrong heart, with this evil kind of control, commanding, judging in a condemning kind of way through pride or self-righteous, um, and they're not seeing these things that are given from above. That when they say these words, when I hear words said, anything by someone out there, and it's, whatever, some kind of lie or whatever, they're not realizing what they're really saying, because those words, any word someone's saying, has some kind of meaning, and has some kind of spiritual meaning to be kept in the heart and live. And they're speaking, not realizing the meaning. So then it's like, we're not, there's just no fellowship. I don't know how else to say it, This doesn't mean don't give or anything. See, once again, rightly dividing, always needing to. It could sound like, oh, don't talk to anyone, don't say anything, I'm try to put pride or self-righteousness on you for an understanding the Father's given you. But there's no fellowship in that. No, I got a bubble in my throat. In that there's just no understanding for someone that doesn't know him. So it's like speaking to the wind. And yet that's what we're supposed to, whatever the Creator, whatever the Father has us do, that's how he proves the sincerity, is we already know they're just not going to understand, that most are so likely won't understand and believe. Well, they're not going to understand it, period, in one day, but so many won't believe. So why do anything then? That's his works are proving the exact opposite. Doing things even though hate is coming. Doing good even though that many will not believe, and then also knowing that most will instantly reject, make fun of, revile, exclude, try to put sin on you to destroy you, doing a lot of evil with the heart, and still doing it anyways. It, there can't be any other intention, the true way, the perfect way. But see, when there's no other incentive, someone is spotted for doing something all along for some other intention, meaning they don't actually understand or care about what they're saying even. They're just doing it. They have incentive and motive to do something for, this could be applied to, anything with his word. Making up things about sowing seed, which is giving them money and then God will bless you, making things up where someone doesn't know because not hearing from the Father and Messiah what seed represents, what sowing is, what reaping is, starting to see what this really is. And so they give their own definition, and it's some kind of carnal definition, but it's something other than the truth. And those that don't see the truth on any given thing are easily tricked, because it sounds right and the heart is desperately deceitful above all things. So, okay, that sounds right to me. And then you run to it. It's a deceitful above all things. So it looks and sounds good because you don't see anything else. And that's how people are tricked. That's how everyone's been deceived. All people, but, speaking of these things, hopefully everyone, coming out of Egypt, his people, all of them must be coming out of Egypt. You can start, seeing these things and start talking about why things are happening and why this or that. There's an answer for all the things unknown still to his people now, there's an answer to those unknown things, and that's what he keeps proving. He'll just keep giving. We keep asking, he keeps giving things we didn't know and understand at all. And so it's like that, stumbling stones everywhere. And there's, that's why the divisions in different groups and systems, I guess you can say, all so divided, because each person going off and not searching the way we need to, we just don't know any better, before someone receives his spirit and believes. And so they're sort of just searching for what they want to be true already, or looking for something that sounds good. And then that's why there's so many different divisions. Someone finds their spiritual language, like with the Tower of Babel, they had to find someone that speaks their language and then group up together with them. And this is how nations are created, fulfilling something that was necessary for something more grand, which will continue to still have a purpose in the future. It's always ever working. The sin, with no other way except sin, could this be fulfilled in that kind of special way. Because of sin, the divisions in languages and nations exist, but they won't teach anyone in that. They won't say that out of truth and belief in school or something, or on CNN or whatever. Surely the president isn't gonna go out of his way to speak truth about any of his word and what it means. Well, it needs to be given in the first place, but that's what man's doing, is trying to hide the Creator, hide from him constantly. And right in Genesis, we could read what Adam and Eve are doing. I mean, there's so much being said there. And, some time back, reading it and think, well, whatever he's shown me, okay, I see the meaning. And you read it and you don't see anything else. And somehow time passes by and you saw something you didn't see in Genesis that you already read before, thinking, believing, which we can't learn not to have this belief anymore, that you see whatever is needed to be seen. And yet there's more, and yet there's more. I mean, with a few words and an example, and it must be like that right now, that if there's more, and there's always, more that's what growing is, always more understanding coming in, than whatever I see in Genesis now about in Adam and Eve, the beginning more so, first few chapters, is not the end, because it's what I thought last time, and the time before, and the time before. So now it's become stupid. And, a kind of sin in its own way to actually have a belief in heart like that, because it's prideful. And he's already proven that thing to me, that what you thought you saw everything, you think you understand, and then he gives you more. And so now to have that kind of belief in the heart becomes pride for self. It's pride. So anything that's pride needs to be cut down, destroyed, examined, repented of. And that's what mankind, he doesn't actually know what pride is. He's happy to actually be spiritually prideful in the heart constantly. And we're going in the other direction. So this world's going to look and see lights, his people shining, and they're going to say in their heart, it's amazing. The Creator knows everyone better than themselves 10,000 times over, trillion times over. Someone should be confident what we read is absolutely true for all mankind, with no exception. whether it's understood or not, should have that kind of confidence. But they won't admit. The world's always going to do things to make it look like the creator's a liar and that it's not true. These spiritual things in the heart and the works of the heart. All day long, the world's going to work and build and do to try to show it's just already doing evil, but this is how you have to say it because the heart is doing it, where it tries to, it thinks it can mock him, and make his word sound like a lie. And that if there is any truth, well, it's true sometimes for some people, every now and then, or something like that, which is a lie still. Anything that's a lie is no good. And then there's partiality. Starts showing us what that is. And it's impossible to put into words the spiritual understanding of any given thing, because mankind thinks he knows what partiality is, and then all of a sudden he's showing you something and you look and you say, I was doing that all along. That means we didn't know what partial was, and never putting an end to it and say, now I know. No, that just likely is not the end of understanding partiality. It might be closer to the beginning than the end with someone. And I'm just saying that to bring out that you can't have a mindset of, I know. Well, he showed me something, now I know. And what I know is what I know. No, it never could be like that. Never could be prideful like that, always seeking truth constantly. And a deeper understanding of something that was given, more is given, like a deeper understanding. And the more he gives you, the more you can see how his prophecy is deadly, scary, accurate of what mankind's heart is doing. I mean, it's frightening how perfect his word is, and it might be just more towards the beginning for me than the end on what sin is. I'm not sure. But the more he gives, the more darkness is being seen and contrasted with good. And we're literally blind from this. I've been saying it a lot because it is scary how blind, thinking we know and we don't know anything. That's the carnal man, the deceitful heart that needs to be broken down and beat down into dust like a stone, getting, crushed. And that's how he heals the broken heart. The stony heart is people that are poor in the spirit, breaking down, getting beaten down by the Creator right to the dirt, and starts building them back the way it needs to be, with the real heart and not a stone. Healed by the stripes that he whips with. No one can be healed unless they're hurt and broken down. Break down the old thing and then heal with new. And a stony heart, I'm losing my voice, is what, we read Israel had. And if them, the nations, how much more, at least equally is true. A stone for a heart. It's like it has no mercy. It doesn't actually care compared to what really caring is. It doesn't care, but it thinks it knows what caring and love is. That's the thing with everything. And what's interesting always to me is darkness in this world is still like truth is bleeding out of it when he starts giving us to see. It's like somehow the people that make products and movies and stuff don't even realize themselves the depth of, well, no one sees without being given. And yet it's just, I don't know how to explain this. It's not because the world is wise. It's just his prophecy of mankind so perfect that even when they make movies for those that are seeing and being healed, we'll see like only truth coming from it. It's like it's starting to become to the pure. All things are pure. You just start losing and stop seeing as much, more and more perversion and wickedness, even though it could be something evil, and you're seeing only truth come out of there, and the rest is like left behind. They don't even realize what they're doing. But they show so many different things of the heart that the heart's actually doing, and yet there's no spiritual understanding from the people making it, because they're the examples of loving money and doing these things, and deceiving, tricking, not knowing what they're doing. This is nothing to do with what someone should or couldn't watch or not. That's between them and the creator. But I'm just speaking that it's like coming out of creation all over the place. It's popping out. I mean, that's like all you start seeing and extracting, I guess. That's the best I could say it. But I know way back, before believing, it's the same mindset as anybody else. It's just entertainment. They're truly not seeing any spiritual thing. So two people could be watching something and they both see different things completely. But a lot of the evil mankind does, it's right in there. And it makes sense because when man creates a movie or something, it's based, even though there's exaggerations and fictional stuff, whatever, so often, it's still based on just knowing whatever someone knows, reality, people, and what they do, places, things, works, robbing, stealing, killing. You know something about those things, but you start seeing something else come out of it. Another big thing is the rejection of the good news. The creator having mercy on all in due time, in the proper time, and not in this age all at once, rightly dividing that from the next age and ages. Otherwise, it's going to be a monstrous lie. And whatever is a lie, that's what's in someone's heart. So it's a big deal that the teaching is prideful and a lie. It's a big deal because it's a lie. It's not overcoming lies. That's part of overcoming lies. You stop believing lies. So we need the creator to give us truth so we could stop believing lies. And whatever someone believes in their heart, that's the works that they do also that match it. But who can see it in this world, And that's why it's a big deal. So they're connected. Beliefs are connected with the works in that kind of way. And yet the works are what's looked at as a judgment because that's the product. That's the proof of something and not beliefs by itself. Like everyone judged according to their beliefs. Where's that scripture? It's the works. But there's a connection, and yet once again rightly dividing between works and beliefs, because in one sense it sounds like the belief is not important at all, because only the works are going to be judged and are being judged even now.